All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our free webinar with Denny Waxman for today. We hope that you enjoyed that video, A Brighter Future, person to person, day by day. For those who have not had the opportunity to see that video yet, it is on our SHI website in case you want to take a look at it again and share with other individuals. So we're streaming right now on Zoom and also on Facebook Live. So hello to everyone that's here on Zoom and those on Facebook. My name is Teron Myers, the Director of Operations here at SHI Macrobiotics. For those who do not know who I am, and for those of you who do not know what SHI is, which I'm sure a lot of you probably on the call do know, but we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. And ultimately, that always just means that your support, your continued viewing, your donations, contributions, everything that you do, we are so, so grateful for that. And overall, our mission is to educate and empower individuals to create lasting health through diet and lifestyle principles, which is why we have these educational webinars and these series that we've been holding now for probably over a year or so, in addition to our other webinars that we have on Saturdays and other courses that we offer as well too. But I know a lot of you are here to hear from Denny Waxman. He's going to go over his topic for today is how you eat, as important or more important than what you eat. And we will have some time for question and answer toward the end. For the time being, I'm just going to have everyone muted. Toward the end where the Q&A, we will allow time for questions in the chat. And for those of you who would like to ask questions directly verbally, I can also call upon you. So right now, I'm going to turn things over to Denny. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teron. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So I just wanted to comment on the video. It's the first of a series of videos. I wanted to put together some simple videos that conveyed the essence of macrobiotics and especially what we're about. And the idea, which actually I got from a friend, a brighter future, person to person, day by day, I think really is the essence of what macrobiotics is about, that what we have, we share to others, and it helps make a better life. And then to outline 10 simple steps, things that make it accessible. The next one in the series, so there'll be a blog and then a video to go along with it. It'll be SHI Can Heal the Planet. So another, I think, important idea. But today, is how we eat more important than what we eat? Well, I mean, most people think macrobiotics is a diet. After all, most people say we refer to the macrobiotic diet. Well, the confusion is, and when I wanted to write one of my books, I didn't want the word diet in there, and the publisher insisted you have to have the word diet. People are interested in diet. So, okay, so we're known as the macrobiotic diet, but part of the confusion is the original meaning of diet was way of life. So when we say the macrobiotic diet, we're really saying the macrobiotic way of life. Together with that, we often hear the term macrobiotic medicine or medicinal cooking. Well, the original meaning of medicine, medi, is the middle, to return to the middle, to return to balance. So the macrobiotic diet is a way of eating that returns to balance. And in the words of Evelyn Kushi, if you can get your diet right, you need no other medicine. So if you learn good food and good cooking, that's really the essence. So that's what we're talking about. Now, to make matters worse, for most of the years I studied with Michio, if someone didn't answer a question well in one of his seminars, one of his lectures, what he'd always say is, what have you been eating? And if you didn't say, what have you been eating? And he'd say, how well are you chewing? So it always brought it back to what we're eating and how well we're chewing. But at any rate, so, I always used to take issue with that. And it was such a big deal that, and I've said this before, for many years, every time I knew I'd see Michio, I tried to clean up my diet for a few or several days because he'd always say, what have you been eating, right? So at any rate, I always thought, okay, well, we've got to get away from this. So now we know macrobiotics is a way of life that returns us to balance. Now, what everyone's basically, your challenge within macrobiotics, there's two challenges. One, how to create a balance. Now, the funny thing is, when I ask my clients, and I don't ask everyone, but I ask a lot, especially people, are more familiar with this, are you yin? Is your condition yin or is it yang? Interestingly enough, most people get it wrong. Most people really answer the opposite. So we need to understand about balance, how to have balance. But the biggest challenge is we need to learn how to choose the foods that we need for our own health and our own life. This is really a challenge. So my analogy is, if you can imagine this huge table, and we fill this table with the best quality, highest quality macrobiotic foods available, and you eat nothing but food from that table, will you end up healthy? And my answer is no, not necessarily. Maybe, maybe not. Unless you learn how to choose the foods you need for your own health and for your own life. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we accomplish these two things? Learning how to make a balance and to create a really balanced condition. And number two, how to choose the foods we need for our own health. Well, when it comes to balance, what my longtime observation is, and I've said this many times, and I speak much more in detail about it, in our seminars, is that imbalances perpetuate themselves. Once we get imbalanced, we tend to choose the worst foods for ourselves more and more over time. So when someone comes to see me for counseling, I tell them avoid this, that, and that, and that, and they say, well, that's my whole diet. And like, how could I be so dumb, or how could I make such bad choices? I said, no, it's automatic. It's not about you. It's imbalances perpetuate themselves, but balance perpetuates itself. That's the essence of our approach, how to create a balance that becomes self-perpetuating so that our desires for food, our appetite aligns with our health and our life. So that, how do we accomplish that? And when we say, needs for our own health and our own life, it means a way of eating that gives us this strength, that gives us the vitality, that gives us the clarity, and gives us the drive to live our life in a healthy, exciting way. One of the things that I've been thinking about this last year, and one of the things we hear all the time is be safe or stay safe. Well, that's nice in a way, but in a way it rubs me in the wrong way, because macrobiotics is not about safety. It's not about being safe. Macrobiotics, the word literally means great life. How to have a great life, an exciting life, a challenging life. That's not always safe, but it's exciting, it's adventurous. So macrobiotics is more about an exciting, adventurous life. Of course, it's your choice. You can choose safety. I've usually not, cared too much about choosing safety or being safe. But I think if you have a balanced, healthy condition, you manage to stay safe, navigate safely through life. In any case, how do we accomplish this balance that's become self-perpetuating? Well, the first thing is what I call nature's cycle, because our balance comes from nature itself. Nature is always returning to balance. Nature is going between day and night, new moon to full moon. The seasons are rotating, hot and cold, up and down, inward and outward. Nature is always self-perpetuating and self-balancing. Right? As much as we do to nature, it survives. It survives because it has endless vitality and ability to constantly return to balance. Our sense of balance comes from nature. It comes from two areas in nature. One, our day-night cycle, when we get out of bed, when our feet hit the ground, when we change from horizontal to vertical. The clock starts ticking then when your feet hit the ground. The second thing is when you choose to get horizontal. The reason is when we're vertical, we receive energy in a very active way between heaven and earth. When we're horizontal, we receive energy in a very dispersed way. So when we're vertical, it's good for receiving the sun's energy, very active energy, which creates activity, creates movement. When we're horizontal, then we're in a position to receive energy, nourishment from the celestial world, from the planets, from the constellations, from the Milky Way itself. So the question is, when can we receive the most nourishment from the celestial world? And the answer is when there's the most stars out. Now, we don't see stars. I mean, we have noise pollution, we have light pollution, ambient light that blocks the stars. Every year we go camping. We're there 4 days. I love it. It's my favorite time of the year. We just got back from camping. And the thing I noticed in the first night, I looked up at night and said, oh my, there are stars. There actually are stars still. And there are planets. And I just saw the biggest planet I've ever seen. I guess it was Jupiter. It was huge. It was, I couldn't believe it. But at any rate, point is that we get the most celestial activity between 1 and 3, or actually midnight and 4. That means in order to get nourished by the celestial world, we need to be in bed before midnight, preferably by 10 p.m., but that's not possible for most people, so at least by 11. Then we're getting the best nourishment at night. We're recharging our body, returning to balance, recharging our nervous system in the best way. Then during the night, we gather excess. Our body goes through its cleaning and maintenance routines, gathers excess. We have the most ability to eliminate that, release our excess until 7 a.m. That means by health, we need to be out of bed and vertical by 7 at the latest, and be up earlier, that's fine, but 7 at the latest, and in bed before midnight, preferably before 11. If we do that, then we're aligning with nature's day and night cycle. The second thing that aligns us is meal times. And out of those meal times, 2 are the most important things you have to remember. The single most important one is start your lunch every day no later than 1 p.m. The reason is our blood sugar follows the sun's movement. After lunch, our blood sugar starts to fall. If we wait too long and our blood sugar dips too much, we don't stabilize it. It doesn't stabilize well. We need to start our lunch no later than 1 p.m. Earlier is better. If you have older relatives, they ate at early times. Lunch was at noon, dinner was at 5. So the most important, start your lunch by 1. The second important thing, if you eat breakfast, then start your breakfast no later than 8:30 a.m. Earlier is okay, but the latest time for a healthy breakfast is 8:30 a.m. These 2 things align us biologically, reset our biological clock every day. Dinner is not as important. And, traditionally the noon meal is the main meal and dinner is a more simple light meal. So if you didn't get a full 3 hours, you're still good. So the first thing is align with nature's energy for a sense of balance. Second is we need to open up to our needs. And for that, 2 things are really most important. The single most important is sitting down to eat without doing other things. It's the essence of mindful eating. For many people, it's the most difficult thing. When you think about it. So I was born 1949, after the war, before there was much in the way of television, I think 1953, before fast foods. So we ate together. There was no TV. We talked together. It's what everybody did. Right? You stopped and you had your meals. That's what people did. Then 1953, first TV I remember in my kitchen, 4 years old. horrible noise. And for the first time, that cycle was broken because we had the TV on during dinner. My mother watched TV when she was cooking. Life changed from that point. It disrupted us. But point is, when you eat without doing other things, you connect with your food. You get more in touch with what you need. So as I said, our biggest challenge, how to choose the foods we need for our own health and life. How do you do that? You sit down to eat without doing other things. Whatever you do, when you eat, you absorb. That means if you watch the news, you absorb the news. If you read the news, you absorb the news. If you work and eat, you absorb your work. You're eating stress, basically. When you watch the news, you're not, seeing anything enjoyable and inspiring, for the most part. If you talk to someone, whoever's with you, you absorb them, meaning you connect with them. So when we sit down and eat without doing other things, we connect with our food and we connect with each other. We build understanding, we build empathy. The more we do that, because food really talks to us. It really does. Food calls us. When we get balanced, then when we see what we need, it just lightens up. We know that we need it. The second thing that's really important is to do the body rub every day at the sink for a good 15 minutes. Now, what's the purpose of the body rub? Well, it deeply cleans and renews our skin, but the body rub is really a spiritual practice. A body rub is our expression of appreciation for our body. We get to know our body and its needs by carefully rubbing. And we see what's good, what's not. We feel what's good, what's not. We can tell as we do it, we get much more aware of our needs and what areas are good and what areas are not. So my experience is that people that do those two things, sit down to eat without doing other things, and other than quiet conversation, and do the body rub every day, always take better care in between. The next really important thing is not eating a full 3 hours before bed, because, sorry, think about it. There's a lot of talk these days about the benefits of intermittent fasting. Well, so we say in Macrobiotics, healthy eating ends by 8 p.m. So if you don't eat from 8 p.m. and then you eat breakfast at 8 a.m., you have 12 hours every day of time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting. If you skip breakfast 2 or 3 times a week, then you have 16 hours on those days. Again, a little better, but enough. You don't have to do it every day, 2, 3 times a week. Enough to have enough empty time inside for your body to adjust, for your nervous system and immune system, lymph system to readjust. Then the next important point is what I call our biological cycle. And our biological cycle means a healthy meal has a cooked grain and a separate vegetable dish. Without a grain, it's not a meal. Without a separate vegetable dish, it's not complete and balanced nutritionally. Home or away. I had this conversation yesterday with a client. Their tendency is they eat pretty well for a while, and then they freak out and they go out and they get pizza or something else and they feel horrible and they say, okay, I really messed up. And I said, well, again, it's about balance and imbalance. It's about creating habits of making healthy choices at home or away. I love to eat out. COVID actually saved me because I couldn't eat out so much. So it was actually, I'm thankful that I had to eat home for a long time. And remember, it was like to eat 3 meals a day at home, for extended periods of time. It was good to reconnect again. But, I do like to eat out. But at home or away, wherever I am, I still like to make healthy choices, choose restaurants so I can get grain and vegetable-based meals, and then sometimes soup out. So the basis of a biologically balanced condition is a grain and vegetable together with every meal, doing soup 1 meal a day. If you get those things in place, then you have the essence of what you need and start to get in touch with your own needs and your body. The other thing that we emphasize in macrobiotics is plenty of green plants at home. And what most people don't realize, most people realize, standing water putrefies. You can see it, it's easy. However, standing air putrefies as well. That means air pollution, putrefaction is building up in your home unless you have good ventilation, open doors and windows 24/7. Which means besides letting in fresh air periodically through the doors and windows, having green plants, which are natural filters for the air, and generating negative ionization, which make a more comfortable feeling. But green plants, when you see green plants around, it reminds you of nature. It gets you more in touch with nature and our need and our desire to have more contact with nature. Together with that, choosing natural materials, natural cosmetics, natural laundry detergent. In other words, it makes us more conscious about the environment and the health of the environment and how a healthy environment, relates to our health, how they're connected. So the essence of all this is number one, good eating habits help us make healthier food choices, sitting down, eating at regular times, not eating before bed. A healthy diet is a grain and separate vegetable dish followed by soup. Vegetable soup is not a vegetable dish. Then try to make a home environment as natural and healthy as possible. And then finally, gratitude. And I don't think we can emphasize gratitude, the importance of gratitude enough in macrobiotics. Macrobiotics is about giving back for what we've received and giving back far more. The spirit of macrobiotics is 1 grain, 10,000 grains. That's the pattern of nature. You plant 1 seed and you get back 10,000 seeds, either in 1 generation or in 2. Nature gives back endlessly, many times more what it receives. A healthy person takes nature as their model to give back. And that's really the essence of health. However, even giving back requires balance because too much of anything is not good. Too much brown rice is not good, too much miso, too much giving back. We have to have time for giving out and taking in. So it always comes back to harmony and balance. So macrobiotics, of course, is a diet because the eating is such an important part of what we do. At the same time, the diet is within the lifestyle. Macrobiotics is a lifestyle. It's a dietary approach with a philosophy of balance and harmony and change. And that's the uniqueness of what we do, but it's also what makes it so difficult to explain it to others. Is it a diet or not? What is it? Is it a lifestyle? At any rate, in fact, I hope that brings some more clarity than confusion in any case. So if you have questions, and I wanted to say, always, the essence is in our book, The Ultimate Guide to Eat for Longevity. This is the book that can bring us back to healthy eating, healthy living, and delicious, healthy cooking. We can show healthy food can be the most delicious. But my bookmark, 7 steps. 7 steps to feel better naturally with diet and lifestyle. And we reprinted our bookmarks. Problem is, we have almost no on-site programs to give them out. So I have a big stack here. If you'd like a half dozen of our bookmarks, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to SHI, and I'll put a half dozen bookmarks and you can have them for yourself and pass them around. So if you have any questions, try to answer them now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Denny, for that wonderful information. And in regards to what he just said about the bookmarks, I will send information about our mailing address and what you can do to get those bookmarks in the follow-up email that I'll send tomorrow. So just as he said, we are now going to go into our Q&A portion where we'll allow anywhere from about 10 to 15 minutes or so for some question and answer. You can either send those questions directly in the chat function, and I'll send a quick message there so you know where that chat function is, and then I can read it out loud. I'm also checking on Facebook Live for questions as well too. So for those that are watching, don't worry, you will not, well, I'll try my best not to miss you. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. If you would like to ask a question verbally, I am going to allow individuals to unmute themselves. I just ask that you wait to be called upon. So if you have questions regarding the topic at hand, we can take those questions now. We just ask that you do not ask any specific counseling or complex medical questions. If you have anything to say regarding something that you heard from another counselor or medical provider, we always ask that you don't mention that individual by name. So thank you so much. Let's see. You can also use the raise hand feature, and that's another way in which I can see if you have a question and I can call upon you, as well as chat. So right now I don't see anything in Zoom, so I'm going to take a look at Facebook Live to see if anyone has any questions. I'm going to just send a quick message. Feel free to ask questions here. Carol, did you have a question? I don't think so. Okay. Let's see. All right. Looks like there's a question in the chat. Okay. So what about 7, 11, and 4 p.m. for meals?
Mommy.
Okay. So the range of breakfast is really 5 a.m. to 8:30. That's starting time. Starting time means when you sit down at the table and you prepare to eat. That's when your meal starts. So breakfast is 5 to 8:30. Lunch is 11 to 1. Dinner is 5 to 7. Now, if it's the winter, or if you live in the far north, earlier is probably fine. But the average, for most people, I think that's the average range. And as I said, breakfast and lunch still are the most important. So if your dinner's earlier, I don't think it's a big deal.
All right, thank you. Carol, I see that you have a question.
Yes. Hi, Denny. Hi, everyone. So with the umi vinegar, natural import only has a 4-ounce bottle. And the Eden, Grace and I looked at the sodium, and it has twice as much sodium as the Mitoku. It's much, much saltier. Do you have any suggestions?
I guess if it's saltier, the only thing you can do is use less. I know there's a problem with umeboshi and umeboshi vinegar, and hopefully that will resolve itself in the future. But the only thing you can do is use less, use it more sparingly.
Yes, I think we're having some concerns about supplies in some respects. I believe it's mainly the Japanese things. Obviously we're not going to have a problem with rice and grains, but it's the Japanese things, right?
Well, no, I think to be safe, it's better to stock up on essentials, non-perishable essentials, grains, beans, dried foods, fermented foods. I would keep more on hand than you need, because there's disruptions in supply in, building in all areas of society. I took my car in for service today and wanted a loaner. And he said they're running out of loaners because they can't get enough cars to sell. So they're taking some of the loaners to sell. So, they're to be safe, grains, beans, dried goods, and fermented foods, I would try to store up, get more than you think you need.
All right, thank you. Our next question, can you speak about posture, how to sit when eating, and anything that should be done or avoided before and after eating?
That's a very good question. The secret to chewing well, I don't have great posture, sorry, but the secret to chewing well is sitting up straight when you eat and putting your head slightly forward at 45 degrees. In other words, I don't have a head spiral anymore, as you can see, but I did it one time. So you want your head spiral facing up. That's the ideal posture for studying, reading, comprehension, but also for chewing. Together with that, when you sit up straight and your head is slightly forward, when you chew, you can chew forward, which means you can chew whatever you want, including water, as many times as you want. If your posture is not good, if you're sitting back and you eat, the food automatically hits the back of your throat. You have a reflex action, you swallow, you can't help it. So it's very important, especially the most important time for good posture is when you eat, to sit up straight, not rigidly, but your head shouldn't be back. It should be slightly forward. That's the ideal posture for eating and chewing. Of course, now you're talking, you can look up.
All right, thank you. Looks like our next question, what Japanese brand of miso is best? I'm having some problems as well getting them.
Well, we use Onozaki, Onozaki. But the Osawa brand, which is available on the West Coast, is also very, very good miso. And I'm not sure which, there's two main suppliers. I'm not sure which miso Eden has, but I'm sure they have a good miso as well. And, America has a uniqueness. It really does. So I like beer. I don't drink much, but I like it. But I think microbrewed beer is better than the best German or English or Czech beer that I've had. I've had them all, and I think we've conquered. Many years when I told the story before, my friend Michelle Matsuda, his family, they're all students of Georgia Sal, longtime Macrobiotics, and they ran the Kyoto Macrobiotics Center, and they also imported their own foods, and so not imported, but they gathered the highest quality foods, which they sold. They really knew food. And Michelle said to me many years ago, America conquered Japan on tofu. He said, American tofu is better than Japanese. And I thought, well, this is interesting. But, it really resounded with me. And the last time we saw him, he was in Philadelphia. Susan sent him home with a lunchbox, and he got back and he said, that tofu was the best tofu I've ever had. It was so delicious. So at any rate, tofu you make one day. So if today's tofu is not good, you can make tomorrow's tofu better, or tomorrow's or next day's. Miso takes 6 months to 2 years or even 3 years. That means to adjust it takes much more time, which means for American miso to conquer Japanese, if we can, even with that, it's going to take generations, in my estimation. So we like to support American companies because, it's going to take them time to catch up. But for health, we also like Japanese miso. And Onozaki is the one we eat most, but you can get from Osawa on the West Coast, very good miso as well.
All right, thank you. Michelle, you have a question?
Yes, I thought this started at 4:30 today, but okay, that's not my question. Hello, sorry I
Hi.
missed much of it. Hi. So I'm hearing a lot about dense foods and how they're bad for the intestine. Can you go into that at all?
Well, it depends. Dense foods are harder to digest. So like mochi is dense, tempeh is dense, seitan is dense. They're all healthy foods, but they are harder to digest. Then you have other dense foods like, like cookies or, muffins. That's a different type of denseness, which, um, it's not the same as pasta or unyeasted sourdough bread. Unyeasted sourdough bread is a natural ferment, so it's automatically more digestible. If you steam it, it's even further digestible. Then you have like fresh fruits or dried fruits. Dried fruits are harder on digestion because they're much more dense. That means it depends. Peanut butter is dense compared to nuts. So the point is, yes, dense foods are harder to digest. So we just have to consider how to use them and not to overuse them. Fried foods, though, that, there used to be a lot of fried macrobiotics that I would use far less than anything else. But you can make mochi digestible, tempeh digestible, seitan, etc. All those healthy foods, we just have to use them in a combination or serve them with something that aids in their digestion and just not overeat them.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you. Let's see. Our next question, which nightshades are okay?
Good question. So it was common practice in macrobiotics to avoid nightshades, which I did for many years. However, as time went on, it seemed more and more information came out about the health benefits of tomatoes. And as I studied it, it turns out that ripe tomatoes are not really very harmful. Solanin decreases the harmful aspect of nightshades. So together with that, nightshades have benefit for people who've eaten a lot of animal foods, not nightshades, but especially tomatoes. So if you're normally healthy and you don't have an arthritic type disease that's directly affected by nightshades, we think it's fine to use cooked tomatoes. And when they're locally in season, organic tomatoes that are locally in season where you live, and to enjoy fresh tomatoes. So I think that's really the best way. But again, it's, are they okay with you? Do they affect your joints or other things? But especially for intestinal and prostate troubles, I think they have a lot of benefit.
All righty. Denny, could you perhaps mention the miso brands again? I just want to type them out for those who are making note.
Okay. So what we use is Onozaki, Onozaki. We use their barley and their brown rice miso. On the West Coast, there's the Osawa brand, OHSAWA. And they have, I know a barley miso. I believe they have a brown rice miso too. I'm pretty sure they do. And that miso is also very good. It's different, but it's very high quality. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one.
All right, thank you. So I'm looking at the time here. I would say we have about 4 minutes left for any questions. So maybe anywhere from, I don't know, 3 to 6 questions, depending on the length. So let's see what we have here. If there is severe acne, can't body rub skin. Let me see. Carol, would you like to clarify? Because I don't want to ask the question improperly.
Yes, so if there's acne on the skin, you can't really body rub it. And just what organ is acne related to? You know, the teenagers, 17.
Well, acne is probably most related to the liver, but all skin problems relate to the kidneys and intestine. Acne, though, I think is related to the liver. And you don't want to irritate something. So anything, so if there's a soft tumor or skin that's easily irritated, just skip that.
Yeah,
Go around it. That's
thank you.
fine, because if you clean up the area around, it cleans up that area. It'll get better anyway.
Thank you.
Alrighty, our next question, what is your opinion on soy-based or other non-dairy based ice creams?
For me, if you're going to eat something, eat food, whatever it is, always food. So my experience is all the so-called fake ice creams are worse than good quality ice cream. So my kids used to love rice cream, so made from rice. I don't know how they processed it, but the oil was terrible. And every time I'd eat it with them, I said, this is horrible. This stuff is really horrible. Until I said, I'm not eating this anymore. So I'm not advocating ice cream, but I think, to me, if you want to eat a food, then eat it. That's just my approach. Not everyone agrees, but Macrobiotics is about eating food and using discretion.
Alrighty, thank you. Let's see. Okay, so these will be the last two questions to be addressed. Michelle, did you just want to ask this question out loud? I see your hand is up again, or do you have a separate question?
I could do that. That's fine. Hi, Denny. I'm reading Macrobiotics arthritis book. I just found out I have arthritis in my spine. So any quick, I know that you did a good webinar on arthritis, well, basing on why muscles, bones are getting depleted. Any brief thing that you can talk about arthritis without me reading the whole book?
All arthritis relates to the intestines, relates to digestion primarily. So, digestive system and the nervous system are complementary and antagonistic. That means for all arthritis, then work on your digestion, strengthening and activating your digestion. That's number one, most important. And try a spoon mat. It's always good.
For those of you who do not know what a spoonk mat, that's a spoonk acupressure mat, something that Denny and Susan have been recommending. Very, very beneficial. If you want more information about that, definitely reach out to us. I know Denny does have a discount code that gives you a little bit of a savings. I think it's about 10% or so off of those. But as I mentioned, if you want any more information, just reach out to us directly. We do not have that feature on our website at this moment. So this will be our final question. Let's see, the intermittent fasting you mentioned before, is it beneficial to do it 2 to 3 times a week in most cases, or is it really depending on one's condition?
Everything depends on one's condition. However, I think for most people, it's safe. So go little by little. Try it once or twice. If that works, try it 2 or 3 times, till you find the right balance. I mean, it depends on your weight, your constitution, your strength, how much excess you have. So there's too many variables to say more specifically. But, even if you skip breakfast, you're still getting potentially 2 substantial, balanced, nourishing meals a day. So I don't think that can harm anyone unless you're just really deficient to start. Thank you for being here. It's always good to see people and hear your questions and see your faces. And I know Tehran has some things.
Yeah, I was waiting for this phone here, but yes. So we do have some updates. If you're looking for more information and education regarding macrobiotics, come back on Saturday. Denny will be back with Susan Waxman, and we're going to be having a webinar entitled "Adjusting for Fall." You can find that already on our SHI Macrobiotics website, shimacrobiotics.org website. I'm going to send a quick link in case information is something that you're looking for right now, as far as where you can access and where you can register for that. As I mentioned, it's going to be adjusting for fall, so ways to be able to gear up for upcoming fall concerns. Also, too, we will be having another webinar similar to this. I will include the information in tomorrow's email, which will have an access to the recording. It's going to be entitled Grain, Friend or Foe. And that's going to be another free webinar with Denny. And that's in 2 weeks. That's going to be on September 1st, which is a Wednesday, and the same time at 4 p.m. Eastern time. One other thing we want to make sure that you are aware of, because I know the idea came up of on-site retreats and things we haven't had in such a long time. For those of you who have not heard, we are having our first on-site retreat since 2019. And it is entitled The Power of Foods. And that's going to be located in an area that's about 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And it's going to be October 6th through the 10th. So it is a 5-day on-site retreat with accommodations. There's going to be lectures, cooking classes, meals served morning, noon, and night. So once again, if you're looking for information about that, it is on the front page of our SHI website for details. And you're always welcome to give me a call as well, too, about that if you're looking for more information. And Denny, did you have something?
Yeah. So we're reintroducing the power of foods. I always thought, besides being one of our most popular seminars, I always thought it was one of our most important. It's really our discoveries that are unique to us. And we haven't done it in a number of years. It just seemed like, okay, now's a really good time. We're re-emerging with the first on-site, so bring out something that was very valuable and revisit it. So that'll be the theme.
All righty, thank you, thank you. All right, so this will be all the time that we have for today's webinar. Feel free if you want to send your appreciations in the form of the chat function, or feel free to even unmute yourself and just say whatever you would like. But we'll see you all soon. And as I mentioned, I'll be sending an email tomorrow with all updates in the recording of this webinar.
Can't wait to watch the whole thing.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very
You
much,
all,
Denny.
bye. Good to see you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Taran.
Thank you, Taran. Thank you, Danny.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you all.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you for these tune-ups.